When you're in the park, everything is going to feel urgent, and urgency makes you forget what you said was important. Welcome back to Ever After Adventures. I'm Samantha, your host of Thrift Ever After, and we are here today talking about 5 Disney planning mistakes that cost you time and your sanity. So let's get it started. All right, if you are headed to Disney World for the first time or the 5th time, it doesn't matter. You booked the flights, you packed the ears, you feel like you are ready. Let me just say this. Disney is not what exhausts people. It's the poor planning that exhausts people because, here's what's going to happen. You're going to get there. It's exciting. It's emotional. It's loud. The castle, it's right there. And you think, we'll just see what we feel like doing. And within 45 minutes, you've crossed the park twice. Your first ride is already at 75 minutes. You missed the best wait window of the day. Somebody's hungry. Somebody probably has to go to the bathroom. And now you're on your phone trying to fix everything for the day. And let me just say that this weekend I went skiing I took my kids skiing for the first time. I've never been before. I've never been at a ski resort before. And I did not plan it out. I went to the wrong resort. We almost missed our window for our ski lesson. I didn't have the right bags. I just didn't really plan because I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. And I said to my friend, I said, listen, this was so much more stressful than Disney. And she's like, you're crazy. And I'm like, no, because I plan out Disney so strategically that maybe leading up is a little stressful, but once you get there, it's kind of stress free. And also remembering that you might mess something up. So let's have a plan B as well. So let's get a little bit more into this. So you've not planned anything. You're starting to spiral early. And the hard truth is that Disney rewards strategy. It punishes your indecision. However, there is good news. When it's done right, Disney is run so beautifully. It's just the best. There's so much magic. And really, let's talk about why. So let's get into the pixie dust portion of the podcast. As mentioned, even though everybody thinks it, Disney is not chaotic. It's actually pretty well engineered, and crowd behavior is pretty predictable. Ride spikes, they follow a pattern. Transportation is going to move in waves, and even dining reservation patterns follow more of a statistical trend. Just to kind of break it down, morning, it's going to have lower weights. Midday, it's going to surge, and late night, it's going to drop again. And if you kind of understand this rhythm, you're not going to be fighting the system. You're going to be moving with it. We took our 4-month-old and not even 2-year-old, and people said we were nuts. But we did so much planning, and we were one of those families who probably looked calm, and it was not out of luck because we've gone so many times after and we've had similar decisions. And I think it's because of the 3 decisions made before we even enter the gate. So let's break down the 5 biggest mistakes that are going to throw people off their rhythm and exactly how to fix it. So here we go into the plot twist part of the podcast. Mistake number 1 is going to be winging rope drop. Rope drop is the most misunderstood concept in Disney planning. People think that rope drop means let's get there early and get there on the rides as soon as possible. And that's not the case. Rope drop means arriving early with a target because the first 90 minutes of your day are the most valuable park time windows that you're going to get. So you may be asking why? And that's because wait times haven't stabilized yet. Lightning lane return windows aren't stacked and crowds are still filtering in. So if you waste that time deciding, you're giving away free minutes. So let's put some numbers really into this. If you rope drop, for example, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, you might wait 20 to 30 minutes. But by 11 a.m., you're going to be waiting 85 minutes. So that's a 65-minute swing across your day. And now multiply that across 2 or 3 headlining rides, and you will be saving yourself hours if you rope drop properly. So now let's talk about the strategy, the power hour map. So before your trip, open up a park map, whether it's on your computer, on your phone. You're going to, if you have it written, you're going to look at one headliner and you're going to draw a small walking loop around to 2 nearby attractions. Again, having it on paper would be the best, but you can kind of do this on in Paint or whatever you have, Canva, however you want to look at it. So let's use Hollywood Studios as an example. Let's talk about Rise of the Resistance, Millennium Falcon, and Toy Story Mania. All are walkable within 5 to 7 minutes. And so you're not crossing the park, you're completing really a zone. And you can finish these 3 rides before 10:30. and now you're ahead of the crowd curve, and that buffer is really going to change the emotional tone of your day. So planning things that are in within a couple minutes walking distance is going to be really important, and then you can kind of go to another area. Obviously, if you have lightning lanes mixed in there, it can be a little bit different, but it's very important that you figure out where everything is and how you're walking distance is really going to affect all that. Let's talk about mistake number 2, overbooking dining experience. Now, I love a good character meal, but our second trip that we took, we totally overbooked our character meals. The truth is that while they are really cool and fun and interactive, dining reservations are going to control your day more than the ride strategy actually is, because when you book a 12:45 in Epcot and 5:30 in Magic Kingdom, you're now planning your entire park movement around these anchors. And every time transportation maybe runs late or a ride goes down or your kid doesn't want to leave the park or the pool, whatever you're doing, it's going to bring in stress. So that's the first thing. The second thing is money. Table service averages anywhere from 45 to I think $65 per adult and 25 to maybe $40 per child plus tip. So a family of 4, that's going to be at least, 180 to $250 per meal. You do that 4 days in a row and you're close to $1,000 in dining alone. The other thing that's going to come into play is you're going to be sitting 2 hours at lunch. You're going to lose those most productive ride windows. So let's talk about, what do we do about this if you really want to see characters? You can experience split instead of daily table service. So choose one immersive meal, a character breakfast or a themed dinner, and one celebration meal. And that's it. Everything else you can do quick service during off-peak hours. You can eat between 11:15 and 3:45. So something that we like to do is we like to rope drop wherever we are, and then maybe like an hour and a half or so later, we like to book our meal so we can rope drop, get a couple of rides in, and then get our meal. Dinner is really hard. I think we did Cinderella's table. We did it at 4, and that was when we did the Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party. So we were there at 4, and then, we were able to get out in time for the party, but that was more strategic. But the other thing about quick service is it's so important for you to pre-order, because our favorite place in the morning, if we don't do a breakfast in Magic Kingdom, is to go to Sleepy Hollow, and we order on our way back from whatever Fantasyland or wherever we specifically were. We put the quick service in. By the time we're there, it's like ready, and there is a line wrapped around, and I'm thinking, why are these people not using their app for that? So it's super important to use the app to order your quick service. And doing all this stuff, you're gonna help avoid more lines, you're gonna avoid peak crowd flow, you're gonna regain control of your schedule, and dining is gonna become intentional. It's not gonna become something that you're rushing through again and stressed about. Mistake number 3, I am the product of it, not building in a rest day. So this is a mistake that I made our first big family trip. So when we grew up going to Disney, we went. We never had a rest day, and we actually never stayed in the bubble, which is like sad, but whatever. We did what we did. My grandparents had a timeshare down there. And so when I went, we did not build a rest day. We did park hoppers every day. And my husband was like, this was not fun. So as we've been going back more and more, I realized rest days are actually more important and sometimes more fun than actual park days. So now a lot of times if we have a 5-day trip, we're only in the parks for 2 days and we're resting and enjoying the other days. However, kids regulate better than we do. And if you're going to Florida, first of all, the humidity isn't just hot, it's depleting. You're walking 20,000 steps, you have sun exposure, overstimulations, decision fatigue, and by 2 p.m., our cortisol is high. And that's when our fight really starts. So the strategy for this is going to be the energy budget method. So think of your day like a bank account. Your morning, you're going to spend big energy. Your afternoon, you're going to replenish. So at like 1 p.m., you're going to ask yourself, are we going to be adding energy or are we going to be draining it? And the answer is probably going to be draining. But so what you're going to do, you're just going to go inside. You can go ride something slow. The People Mover is my favorite, or Spaceship Earth. You can go back to the resort, go in the pool. Even if it's 60 minutes of you relaxing and resetting in your hotel room, that can restore 3 to 4 hours of nighttime stamina. And nighttime at Disney is so special. That's when wait times drop. That's when, the vibes are elevating, and rest protects your firework mood. You want to make it to the end. Let's get to mistake number 4, ignoring the geography. This one is a little sneaky because people think the parks are compact and they're actually not. Magic Kingdom alone is 107 acres. So if you bounce from Adventureland to Tomorrowland, Frontierland, back to Fantasyland, and you're walking miles unnecessarily, you're going to start to feel rushed. You're going to stop enjoying the details and you're going to start watching the clock. We can no longer just, unless you get the Premier Pass, walk in clockwise or counterclockwise motion. So while we can't necessarily do that old school clockwise and counterclockwise motion, you can kind of do a clock commitment, I'll say. So when you enter the park, you can choose a direction. You can commit to it and you can move in a loop. So Magic Kingdom, for example, you can start in Fantasyland, you can flow into Liberty Square, you can move into Frontierland, and you can end in Adventureland or finish in Tomorrowland. Like I said, this is all kind of going to depend on what your lightning lanes are. So it's important to factor those in as well. But if you do this as a general rule, you're going to avoid traffic flow. You're going to conserve your steps. You're going to reduce your mental load. And this single strategy can remove thousands of unnecessary steps from your day. So just like as a tip, you don't want to book a lightning lane over in Adventureland and then 30 minutes later have one over in Tomorrowland and then another one back in, at Tiana's or something like that. It's necessary. And same thing with Epcot. Epcot is hugely underrated with how many steps. So I remember one time we booked Frozen and then we booked Nemo and then we had Ratatouille and then we had Soarin'. And it's like, you're going all over. It's probably not the best bet. Now, let's get into mistake number 5. Kind of what I was just saying, but not understanding your lightning lanes. So lightning lanes was so stressful for me on our first trip because I had no idea what to do with them. And a lot of my stress originated from it. People treat it like a lottery, but it's not. It's really more like inventory management. And yes, certain attractions sell out early, but certain return windows are going to push later into the day. And certain rides, you're just not even going to need it at all, like The Little Mermaid or Nemo. Sometimes you might need it for Nemo. If you don't know which is which, you're going to panic buy. So here's the strategy, the 333 lightning framework. So before your trip, list 3 rides per park that truly matters, 3 rides per park you're okay missing, and 3 rides per park that rarely exceed 30 to 40 minutes. So now when the booking opens, you know your priority, and here's going to be your advanced move. You're going to book your first lightning lane as early as possible. You're going to use it immediately to book the next one. You're going to stack strategically for late afternoons, and you're going to create ride security for later when standby is the highest. This removes the constant app checking anxiety. So here's the magic move, and we're going to talk about the 3 ride rule a little bit more expanded. So we just kind of explained what that is. If you remember nothing else from this episode, remember this, the 3 ride rule, because this one strategy alone can completely change your day in Disney. Here's what most people do. They walk in thinking we have to get everything done. And that pressure starts immediately. You're looking at wait times, you're watching the app, you're reacting to what everyone else is doing. And suddenly the entire day feels like you're chasing the park instead of enjoying it. And I know this from personal experience because this is what I used to do before I started taking my own advice. So here's going to be what you do. Before you even scan into the park, you're going to, like I said, you're going to decide what 3 rides actually matter to us, not what matters to Instagram, not what matters to Facebook, not what I say or your friend says, not a random Facebook group, your 3. And here's going to be the rule. They must be in the same land, not spread out across the park, not one here, one there, in the same area, because geography is going to protect your energy. So let me give you a real example in Magic Kingdom. So if you say to me, my daughter wants Peter Pan, my son wants Seven Dwarfs, my husband wants Haunted Mansion. Okay, we're going to start in Fantasyland. These are all great rides and they all can have higher wait times. They're going to be in Fantasyland and Liberty Square. So your three, they might be Peter Pan, Seven Dwarfs, Haunted Mansion. Now your morning is a little bit more structured. You're going to rope drop one of them, either Peter Pan or Seven Dwarfs. I personally like to rope drop Seven Dwarfs and then go over to Peter Pan. You're going to move intentionally to the second one, and then you're going to flow into the third. And by 10:30, you've already hit that emotional priorities of the day. And that's going to change everything, because here's what happens psychologically. When you secure what matters early, that pressure for the rest of the day is going to drop. And when wait times spike, you're not going to be panicking. When lightning lane times shift, you're not going to be spiraling. And when someone says, I'm tired, you're not thinking, but we still haven't done Peter Pan and it's like 2-hour wait. You've already done those things. And that shift from scarcity to security is huge. And let's also talk practicality. 3 rides done early can save you 2 to 3 hours standby time later. And that is your time back. You can use that for snacks. You can use that for the parade. You can use that for sitting on a curb with some good old popcorn without feeling like you are behind. And that is what I love most, because when you sit down before your trip, you're going to ask, what are our 3? You stop planning for the intent and you're going to start planning for your family. And maybe your 3 aren't thrill rides. Maybe they're just Jungle Cruise, Pirates, and People Mover. Amazing. Then your morning is in Adventureland, and then it's going to be into Tomorrowland, and you've built the day around what fits for you. And here's the advanced move. If you can knock out your 3 by 10:30 or even 11, everything after that is going to be your bonus. You're not going to feel pressured. It's going to be a bonus. You ride something with a 60-minute wait, cool. You skip it, also cool. And you're no longer chasing that, I need to finish. You're enjoying the momentum. And the momentum at Disney is everything, because the family's melting down at 2 p.m. It's rarely about the exhaustion, but it's kind of about, yeah, a little exhaustion, but feeling behind. And the 3 ride rule is going to eliminate that feeling, make you feel like you won. And when something unexpected happens, because it will, a ride going down, storm rolling in, lightning lane shifts, you're not going to be spiraling. You're going to be flexible because your priorities are secured. So 3 rides, same land or next to each other land, done early. It's simple, but it changes the entire tone of your trip. If I were you, I'd stop trying to make Disney efficient, because it's a trap. People go in thinking, we're going to maximize this. And the second you're trying to maximize something, you're reacting all day, reacting to wait times, reacting to lightning lane windows, you're reacting to what everyone else is running towards. Instead, I would decide on these 3 things before the trip: what rides matter, what meals matter, and what moments matter. That's it. I would write it down. Don't keep it in your head. Actually write it down, because when you're in the park, everything is going to feel urgent, and urgency makes you forget what you said was important. So if my daughter tells me before the trip, I just want to do Peter Pan, okay, then Peter Pan becomes a non-negotiable. Everything else is flexible. And that shift alone is going to remove half of the stress. And here's the strategy part. Most families feel stressed at Disney because they feel behind the crowds, behind the wait time, behind the plan that they built in their head that doesn't always matter. And a lot of the time, the kids don't even know what they're missing out on. So I would build the day around securing priority rides early, like the 3 ride rule, and then intentionally loosen the grip. And this means once your 3 rides are done, stop checking wait times every 5 minutes. Once your dining plan is locked, stop rearranging the midday. Once you've stacked those lightning lanes for later, put the phone away. You don't need to optimize every hour, because that's when the chaos is going to start. And here's something I would also do. I would build in a we can skip this mindset before we even arrive. There's always a ride that goes down. There's always a line that spikes. There's always something you don't get to do. And that's normal. So instead of, we have to get to this, I would say, if it works, great. If it doesn't work, let's pivot, because Disney rewards pivoting. The families at Meltdown, they're clinging to a rigid plan, and we cannot have a rigid plan in Disney, even though we have to plan a lot. The families they have the structure, but they're flexible inside of it. And that's the sweet spot. Structure outside, flexibility inside. And if I were you, I would also remember this. No one looks back at their Disney photos and said, wow, I'm glad we refreshed the app all day. They remember the castle at night, the popcorn, the dumb joke in line, the one ride that made everyone laugh. So build the strategy, secure what matters, and let the rest just breathe. That's how you leave tired but happy, not drained and annoyed. So I hope this episode helped you to strategize for your next trip. Next week, we're talking about something wild. You're in the middle of a literal Florida swamp, and somehow there are no mosquitoes. How is Disney doing that? I'm going to break it down for you next week. And here's for the Main Street sign off. Remember, you don't need to do it all. You need to do it intentionally. Keep the magic, skip the chaos, and I'll meet you on Main Street.